Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. How we doing, ladies and gentlemen? We're here in Week 16, Sweet 16. I really hope you guys made it this far. Hope you guys made it into your semifinals of your leagues in your championship bracket. And even if you didn't, and you're still here and you're listening to us, like big props, big respect. I'm Fab. That's Raj. That's Nacc. We're here to take you into the full slate of the Week 16 games, the semifinals of the championship bracket. We're here in the Fantasy Football Playoffs. Hope you survived your first week. Hope you survived this second week and make it all the way to the promised land. Before we jump into this, ladies and gentlemen, please continue to follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter for weekly fantasy breakdowns all season long. Only a few weeks left, but we're still going to be doing all those breakdowns. Send us your waivers, send us your sit-start questions, especially right now. Can't stress it enough. Matchups are super important. Rodgers is going to take us through some interesting stuff on the opening drive when it comes to defenses and kickers that you got to know how to stream, because kickers are people too, guys. Kickers are people too. Nacc is going to keep us very honest with love-hate picks. I think we redeemed ourselves in Week 15, and we're going to keep it rolling for Week 16. That's very exciting. And that's it, man. Like, I'm going to kick this off with Roger, but before I do, to everyone out there who lost your week, I do apologize. It sucks. I lost a few of my weeks too. 2026 is always a better year than 2025, especially if you didn't make it this far. But stick around. You know something? Even regardless of all that, like, we're here. We're having some fun. There's banter. We don't know what we're talking about half the single time, but it doesn't matter anyways. Anyways, I'm done. The spiel's over. Roger, take it away with Week 16 opening drive, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabio. So we'll go quickly with top under the radar defenses and kickers to stream during Week 16 fantasy semis. So obviously, from a defensive standpoint, you're starting the Texans versus the Vegas, Eagles at Washington, Bills at Cleveland, Niners at Grandpa Rivers, and Vikes at Giants. So in terms of undervalued streamers, let's begin with the Saints defense versus the Jets. Again, I keep saying it, get the Saints defense. They face the Jets and Brady Cook and the Titans next week. INT force in 4 out of the last 5 games, and the Jets allow the third most sacks per game in the NFL. Saints D should provide a very solid floor. Surprising call that I'm going to mention now is the Jaguars defense at Denver. This has game of the week potential. Huge matchup between two great play callers and quarterbacks that are on absolute fire in Bo Nix and Trevor Lawrence. But the Jags have gone 6 straight games with double-digit fantasy points from their defense, and on the season, they've done that against the following offenses: Cincy, Houston twice, San Francisco, Chargers, and Arizona. No one is talking about them, but they are one of the most underrated defenses in the league right now. And then you have the Bears defense at the Packers. Another game of the week potential. Bears defense is matchup proof because they are an absolute ball hawks. Most turnovers in the league. Only 3 games this season without an INT. Only 3 games this season without an INT. 6 multi-interception games by their defense. Most of those games, they've had 3 INTs forced. Jordan Love has protected the ball well, but he is always prone to an absolutely skull-crushingly dumb INT, which was the case in the first matchup. I like the Bears' defense due to their ability to get the ball back. And then obviously I'd avoid the following defenses due to them being bad defenses, despite the matchups being decent. Titans versus KC, Falcons at Arizona, Jets at New Orleans, and Cardinals at Atlanta. So now on to the kickers. First off, we have Blake Grupe, 1% owned, Colts kicker versus the 49ers. Colts have 0 fourth down conversions in the last 3 games. Grupe scored 15 points against the Seahawks. The 49ers can be moved on even with Rivers. We saw what they were still able to do last game against Seattle. And with Rivers' lack of arm and their lack of third down conversions, that'll be scarce. I think Colts should be kicking to keep the game going and keep it close. Then we have Will Reichard, 24% owned with the Vikings at the Giants, who have allowed the most field goal attempts per game in the last 3 games. Reichard hasn't missed a kick since week 8, and the Vikings have the 7th worst red zone touchdown percentage. With JJ McCarthy looking better, but the offense still sputtering, 10 to 12 points is not out of the question for Reichard. And if you're worried about the Meadowlands weather, 8 degrees and sunny this Sunday. Solid conditions for kicking, and yes, we do provide weather updates on this spot. And then lastly, Nick Folk at New Orleans. Old man Nick Folk, somehow still in the league. He actually played with Aaron Glenn, believe it or not. That's how old he is. 2% owned. So please do start the Saints defense as mentioned, but Folk could be a solid start. The Saints don't blow anyone out, so the kicking game should stay relatively activated the entire game. And this being in the Superdome in New Orleans is a good weather kicking game. Plus, the Saints allow the 11th most field goal attempts per game. Additionally, Folk has had at least one field goal in all but one game this season, so very solid floor. So that's your Week 16 opening drive, defenses and kickers to stream for the fantasy semifinals. Nacc, how do we do in Week 15 love-hate?
Yes, thank you, Raj. Very lovely opening drives with the defenses and the kickers. So, yes, it is time for our love hate. But before we unleash our week 16 love hate chaos, let's rewind the tape on week 15 and figure out what the hell actually happened. Accountability keeps us honest. Every hit, every whiff, and every why did I start a moment sharpens us for another ridiculous week of fantasy madness. So, in week 15, we went a lovely 10-4 as a collective, bringing our overall record to 107 and 108 and 2.
Need it.
So
Need it.
yeah, we definitely
Let's go.
last couple weeks have been very, very nice. Raj, you were the big winner in week 15, went 4-1, hitting on all your loves of Brock Purdy, Marcus Mariota, and Harold Fannin Jr. You also hit on the hate of Justin Herbert, but missed out on Mr. Jacoby Brissett hate. Honestly, 24 fantasy points against that defense was no one had.
He's a
must-
He's a must start. It's
Yeah, I
crazy.
think he is a QB 8 this week per Fantasy Pros, so definitely must start in the playoffs. Fab, you went 3-1, missed out on your Aaron Jones love. Chris Rodriguez unfortunately didn't play, was an inactive game time decision, but you hit on all of your hates. One was Omarion Hampton, Kenneth Walker III, and Hunter Henry at tight end. I myself went 3-2, missed out on Emeka Egbuka. I can't believe what's his name went off instead. Mike Evans.
Oh, did he ever go off, man?
With limited snap counts.
It's not looking good for Ibuka. The target share is really going down now with Evans and Godwin.
Too many mouths to feed.
Yeah.
There's too many mouths to feed.
Yeah. I did hit on Juwan Jennings' love and as well as the Theo Johnson. Missed out by a hair on Michael Wilson. And did hit on the hate of Christian Watson.
How many projected points did Michael Wilson have for you to miss out on 5 for 54 and a touchdown?
14 or 16, something like that. Yeah, something. It was quite high, but yeah, it was the touchdown that
13.72.
That hate. I think he finished with 14 points.
16
points. There you go. That touchdown saved him at the very end. So I'm going to be, that was our week 15 results. So we'll dive into the week 16 now. So I'm going to start the circus off with the quarterbacks you can rely on and the ones who should be legally banned from your roster. Raj is storming in next with the running backs, and Fab is closing out the show with the wide receivers that will either win you a championship or emotionally ruin you. We're also putting a spotlight. What's that?
We're getting dark, but really, are we getting dark?
But we have
It's
to
the
get
same.
a little dark.
It's all the same.
16 weeks in. It's
16 weeks. You got to get a little.
It's a battle of attrition, ladies and gentlemen. Battle of attrition.
And we're also putting spotlight on 3 tight ends you absolutely need to keep tabs on, whether they're suddenly ascending into demigod status or flashing the kind of red flags that would make you bench them in a bye week. So without further ado, warm-up's over, stretching is canceled. Let's get right in with the QBs that we love and hate this week. So I am on tap for those. First QB, I think everyone knows who I'm going to talk about first with donning his beautiful jersey. It's Mr. Aaron Rodgers, QB 25 at the Lions. Hear me out, folks. Hear me out.
Here
so
we
Rodgers
go.
Rodgers has been red hot the last 2 weeks after the Fire Tomlin chants broke out at Heinz Field. Yes, I still call it Heinz Field. He's completing 80% of his passes over the past 2 weeks and averaging 21 fantasy points in that span. He's playing his best when it counts, and he gets to play a nice indoor game versus a Lions defense who's been absolutely gutted and giving up an average of 28 fantasy points per game to QBs over the last 4 weeks. So for me, this is a prime spot to get Rodgers into your lineups, and I love him over the likes of Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, Tua, and even Jackson Dart. Second QB I love this week is going to be JJ McCarthy, QB 19 at the Giants. So another QB who's on a little bit of a heater the past 2 weeks, averaging 25 fantasy points per game. Yes, he's played some awful defenses, but he's about to get his third straight NFC East team, and they may be the worst one. The Giants have been a QB playground all season long, giving up the third most fantasy points to the position. The least amount of points they have allowed this season to a QB is 14, and that was all the way back in week 3. Since then, QBs are averaging 22 points per game, so he is definitely locked in as a high-end QB2 in Superflex leagues, and I actually love them both over the same players: Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, Tua, and Jackson Dart.
I was kidding a little bit, but I actually agree with both calls, and the Detroit defense is looking to be quite overrated.
The whole secondary is injured.
Yeah,
both star safeties are out. The corners are all backup corners, and it's they've been gutted, literally gashed the last 4 weeks. Like 28 fantasy points per game is for 4 weeks is a lot.
Yeah.
Now to the QBs I hate this week. So the first one is going to be Sam Darnold, QB 24 versus the Rams. So right on cue, Darnold is having his late season slump. He's become extremely volatile to trust, especially in the fantasy football semifinals. Very poor showing at home versus an indie team. They had to settle for 6 field goals to win that game, and now he gets a Rams D on a short week with the division on the line. The Rams have actually allowed opposing QBs to score an average of 25 points over the last 2 weeks, but I'm expecting a low-scoring affair here. And fire up, as I mentioned, the aforementioned Rodgers, Bryce Young, and even Tyler Shuck before Sam Darnold this week.
Shuck looks good. I have to say, I think it was a bit overblown, all the JJ McCarthy versus Sam Darnold stuff, especially seeing what we're seeing with Sam Darnold, as you said, Nacc, like kind of the late season, I guess opposite of a surge. It's Kevin O'Connell looks like he kind of made the right decision on that front. Well, I mean, we'll see in the playoffs, but it hasn't looked good. It hasn't looked good. 6 out of the last 7 games. It's
Darnold's played some very tough teams, and JD McCarthy has played teams that have Swiss cheese for defense. I mean, let's just also call a spade here.
I'm talking more real life football, like less fantasy. Like it's
I understand.
Yeah. And the final QB I hate this week is going to be Mr. Jackson Dart, QB 14 versus the Vikings. So although he's coming off a very solid fantasy performance versus the Commanders, he's one play away from being knocked out of the game completely. Pair that with the Vikings allowing an average of 7 points. That's 7 points to opposing QBs over the past 5 games. And the QBs over that span, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Jaden Daniels, Sam Darnold, and Dak Prescott. This is simply way, way, way too much risk in starting Dak with your season on the line, and QB 14 for me is absolutely madness. I'm firing up the likes of Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, JJ McCarthy, all of whom are behind him in this week's Fantasy Pro rankings.
That's an easy call.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it when I saw those numbers. Their average is 7 points in the last 5 weeks to quarterbacks.
They're very good. Minnesota's defense is very good.
Yeah, just completely excellent. So that'll do it for the QBs we love and hate. Raj, why don't you keep it going with the running backs?
Yes, thank you. So first running back I love is, actually I'll give both of them. I have DeAndre Swift, RB16 against the Packers, and then Kenneth Gainwell, RB32. So we'll start with DeAndre Swift versus the Packers. Massive tilt again, we mentioned it on Saturday, likely for the NFC North Division. The Packers are 11th best versus running backs this year, but my big push for Swift is the impact of the Micah Parsons ACL injury having some residual effects on their front and their passing game, where it felt like he put a lot of their teammates in suitable roles for them. So him being out, I think, has a big impact on that front. Otherwise, Swift is quietly the RB14 this season, and since his week 5 bye, he's been on an absolute tear. He's had good performances recently, obviously against Philly, last week against a good Browns defense, and even against the Packers 2 weeks ago. Even though he didn't have a touchdown, he ran really hard and really well and had a positive yards per carry. So Swift must stay in lineups and is an RB1 regardless of matchup. And then I'm rolling with Kenny Gainwell, even against the overrated Lions defense, as mentioned. Yes, there's some injuries, but they just haven't looked good either way. He was awesome against the Dolphins and has great chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers had great praise for him after the Dolphins game, saying he could not believe the Steelers got him for the price they did, which Nacc, you have mentioned quite often already. A few things about Gainwell as well. He's one of 3 backs to lead their team in receptions with Christian McCaffrey and Devon Achane. Has more catches over the last 5 weeks than, and which is 28 catches, more catches than Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, Nico Collins, and Brock Bowers. And in the last 3 weeks, snap share is even between him and Jaylen Warren, but he's been running more routes, getting more targets, and has been the clear guy in long down and distance situations. He should remain in lineups, especially in PPR formats. I like him more than his running mate Jaylen Warren and Bill Merritt this week.
It's incredible what the disrespect he gets in the rankings still. Like RB30 is like insane to me.
And
last week I think he was RB29.
Yeah. Just like a Swiss Army knife type player. He's been great.
Yeah, his floor is amazing.
They know how to utilize him. Honorable mentions. I'm lukewarm on Woody Marks. He gets a prime matchup against the Raiders, who give up the 7th most fantasy points to running backs, but he's dealing with, I believe it's an ankle injury. Jowar Jordan came on in relief and honestly looked like the best back for the Texans all season. So it's a must-win game versus the Raiders, but against the bad Raiders team, maybe they save Marks for the upcoming weeks. But if Marks is out, I like him if he plays. But if he's maybe a little bit hobbled, I do still like Jowar Jordan against the Raiders, who he played with a ton of juice, 15 carries for over 100 yards. And then another maybe sneaky honorable mention, Audric Estime versus the Jets. So the Jets had the worst defense in the league over the last 4 weeks, 11 touchdowns allowed to running backs.
Estime sighting.
Sorry? Yeah. Estime. It's been a while since those Broncos days. So Devin Neal, if he can't suit up, obviously, I like Neal against the Jets, but if he can't suit up, I think Estime could be a good get. He probably will get through waivers, as he was ruled out mid-game last week, so TBD on his availability. But Estime would be a great fill-in a prime spot, having showed some juice in a big catch and a few big catch and runs versus the Panthers.
Devin Neal was just dropped in the Bush League by Nicolas Boras. So, Nick, you're listening. We're paying attention to what you're doing, even while we're recording.
Even while live.
This is a live reaction right now. I can't believe you dropped Devin Neal. I guess you just don't want to win this week.
No patience.
No patience at all.
And just quickly, Tyrone Tracy versus Minnesota looked good against Washington, and Tony Pollard versus the Chiefs. Back-to-back 100-yard games. He's on fire. I think he should stay.
Yeah, he's fuego, baby. Fuego.
Yeah, typical last late season.
I drafted him too early, and I gave up on him only after the 12th week. I should have waited until week 15.
Man.
Typical.
He's a do not draft for me next year either way, like especially if he's still in the Titans.
It was a bye week fill-in.
Yeah. Players I hate. Quinshon Judkins against the Bills. So he's the consensus RB19 in Fantasy Pros. Matchup be damned, and Judkins has a very good one against a bad Bills run defense. The offensive line struggles are just too hard to overlook. He's ranked as the 6th worst. This is ranked as the 6th worst run blocking unit in the league. Judkins is averaging 2.8 yards per carry in the last 4 games and 3.7 on the year. He actually has 3.5 yards after contact. So he's been missing multiple starters on the offensive line, as mentioned, and teams are daring Shedeur to beat them. Check this. He's facing the 3rd most 8-man fronts in the league, and only 25% of his yards are before contact. So very, very hard to trust for the rest of the season. And regardless of the matchup, I think he's a sit this week until you see better results. And then there's Ashton Genty against the Texans. Look, everything I said about Judkins applies to Genty. Rookie running back, poor yards after carry, poor yards per carry, very bad offensive line that can't block. But then you add the fact that the Texans have the best defense in the sport. There's actually an interesting stat that's been floating around regarding Genty on social now that I don't think people should chase. So this season, when Genty has 13 plus carries, not even touches, he's averaging 17 PPR points. In the last 5 games, with less than 13 carries, he's averaging 7 PPR points. So the issue for me is the Raiders team is just so bad. I don't expect them to be in positive enough game script to continue running with Ashton. So nightmare season for him and his owners. It's an easy sit for me as well. And at this point, he's only a flex player at this juncture of the season. Weirdly ranked ahead of Tony Pollard, who is, again, as mentioned, his usual kind of late season heater. And I like Michael Carter. And in this case, I even like Bill Merritt over Genty as well. And just lastly, one honorable mention hate, RJ Harvey or any Denver running back, whether it's Tyler Batty, Jaleel McLaughlin. Jacksonville defense is legit. Amazing run defense.
Well done. These are great calls this week for the running backs.
Yeah, Roger really did his homework.
Fab, what do you got
week
on
16.
What do you have on the wide receiver
I'm
front?
usually the analytics guy. And
no, you are. I'm kidding. Anyways, let's move on to wide receivers and more fun stuff. Right, wide receivers. It's I think Colin Cowherd is a little bit upset that Patrick Mahomes is done for the year. Sorry, Chris Collinsworth. Excuse me, Chris Collinsworth.
Speaking of homework.
Yeah, speaking of homework. And Colin Cowherd, Chris Collinsworth. It's their season there. Anyways, wide receivers. So the wide receivers that I love this week are Jaden Reed at Chicago and Ladd McConkey at Dallas. Start off with Jaden Reed. So this will be Reed's third game back, and he's been averaging a hair under 10 PPR points per game. But his route participation has been increasing, and so has his targets and volume. But I think this is the week you can confidently put him in your lineups and get some legit return. Bears slot cornerback Kyler Gorder has been placed on IR. Reed operates primarily out of the slot, so roughly 65 to 70% of his routes come out of the slot. Bears are still operating a little short-handed too with some of their linebackers that are injured, and they give up the 10th most fantasy points to wide receivers. I see this as a very high-volume PPR game for Reed. I legit see him flirting with like 9 receptions, 75 yards, 1 TD stat line. Also, Christian Watson's most likely going to be missing this game as well, so there's more work and more volume is going to be most likely siphoned towards Jaden Reed. Fantasy Pros has him ranked as wide receiver 28. That's good, but I would still start him over guys like Brian Thomas Jr., Egbuka, Pittman, and even Deebo Samuel. Like the matchup a lot. The usage is going up at the right time. Second love for the week is Ladd McConkey at Dallas. So I think it's time to put up or shut up for Ladd McConkey. So 3 receptions in the last 2 games, under 25 receiving yards in both. If you made it to the semis, it's in spite of McConkey and not because of him. But this week your patient gets rewarded because they get Dallas Cowboys. Herbert's been playing exclusively out of the shotgun ever since he had his surgery, and McConkey's target share has actually increased 20% since that time. So they've had just some tough matchups, and Ladd is a must-start for me in all formats. Volume alone will get him those high-end wide receiver 2 numbers. I really start Ladd over Justin Jefferson, Jacoby Myers, Scary Terry, and even Cortland Sutton.
Oh my.
That's
a murderer's row.
Crazy.
Murderer's row.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
This one will be revisited.
100%, and I'm ready for it.
Trio
it's more Herbert and
that offense is not
protection, and I know the pass rush isn't amazing for this, but
100%. But I've been looking into it. He's been getting his passes out a lot quicker than usual, and McConkey's been the guy that's been on the receiving end of those. It's just that it hasn't really translated into the targets haven't necessarily translated into production as of yet. I'm banking on the production to hit this week versus a very porous Dallas defense. So my hates. So speaking of Scary Terry versus Philly and Brian Thomas Jr. versus Denver. So Scary Terry. So Terry McLaurin giving up the 7th. The Philly are giving up the 7th least amount of points to wide receivers and haven't surrendered a passing TD since week 12. So it's a tough matchup, and Philly D are rolling at the moment, and I think Mariota is going to be under a lot of pressure all game. Philly D allow very limited big pass plays and focus on tight coverage, making a ceiling play tough for Terry McLaurin. So Fantasy Pros has him ranked as wide receiver 22, and that's too high for me. So give me guys around there in plus matchups that I like over him, like Ladd. I would actually even take I would take Jettis over McLaurin at this spot. Devontae Smith, and also the aforementioned Jaden Reed. So he's a flex play for me, but in 2 wide receiver sets, I'm sitting him. It's like Brian Thomas Jr. at Denver. So he's a straight sit. At least 12 fantasy points in 2 straight games. So he's been actually doing pretty well. At least 6 targets. Last game he scored for the first time since week 6. Maybe Brian Thomas Jr. is back, but I wait another week. Denver pass defense or elite. PS2 is top tier. I would sit Brian Thomas Jr. I will not get cute about it. Denver D haven't given up 5 passing TDs. I've given up 5 passing TDs all year. And Fantasy Pros has Brian Thomas Jr. ranked as wide receiver 29, which is nuts. So give me guys like even Khalil Shakir, Jaden Reed, Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore, and even Luther Burden over him this week. Luther Burden obviously contingent if he's healthy. He has a bit of he's day-to-day with an ankle injury. So yeah.
Or if Roma Dunze plays, which is also unclear.
Yeah, that was a very last minute inactive for
I think
Roma
he's out for the
Dunze.
year.
It came at like 12:56.
That's not promising for.
I think
the
he's going to be
upcoming
out for the year.
when that happens.
Yeah.
When that happens, it's not promising. I find
That's what I'm reading as well too.
Yeah.
Like there's a high likelihood he's out this week, and they might even just sit him into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Those are my love hates, ladies and gentlemen. Best of luck in the semis, and just come at me and give me my flowers once I get all these right. Thank you.
Oh, you and your flowers. Raj, why don't you give me a tight end you'll love or hate this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the well with Mr. Dalton Schultz versus the Raiders. I've gone back to Schultz quite a bit, and he's been asked about quite a bit in TikTok and YouTube. So he's been consistently one of the most asked about, as mentioned, with bad reason though. Weeks 3 to 14, Schultz was the tight end 13 in fantasy points per game, with an 18.2% target share and averaging 47 receiving yards per game. On Sunday, Schultz had another stellar game with a 31% target share, 8 receptions, 76 yards, and a score in Houston's win over Arizona. Just look at what Dallas Goedert did against the Raiders and tell me Schultz can't do the same. So really like him, and he's basically CJ Stroud's second most trusted target there behind Nico Collins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love this call.
What
about you? Love or hate on a tight end?
I got a massive love for Kyle Pitts Sr. versus Arizona. And you're like, yeah, obviously starting him. No, you have to understand something. First off, if you have Kyle Pitts Sr., kudos to you. You're well on your way to having one of those special type of players that gets super hot at the right time, has a very friendly schedule, and a QB that throws him the ball like he owes him money. He's a must start in all formats, but you knew that already. But even if you had the guys like, if you have McBride on your team, and then by some miracle you have Kyle Pitts too because you like fielding 2 tight ends, you're putting Pitts in your flex. It's a monster week last week. Cousins has been feeding Pitts and feeding fantasy families too. This is another top 2 tight end finish this week. Easily. Fantasy pros ranked him as a tight end 3, and I think that's even too low. So listen, have fun winning your semifinals with Kyle Pitts in your lineup, ladies and gentlemen. And who would have thought in week 16 Kyle Pitts Sr. is saving fantasy seasons? Who would have thought?
He's gonna go and end. He's gonna end them. He's gonna end everyone's season. He's. I
just saying.
I agree with the call. I just like
he's
have to
been
him.
Otherworldly. And to be honest with you, take away the 45-point game, which is ridiculous. We know he's been having a good season. He's been having a very much a startable tight end 1 season. We got to give the guy credit where credit is due.
He's gonna pull the rug.
It's true though. It's true. Like he hasn't been. He's been moments of inconsistency, but for the most part, he's been startable. And chances are, if you do have McBride, you probably have Kyle Pitts too, so you can just plug him in your flex because I don't know. Kirk Cousins apparently owes him money because he keeps on throwing him like 12 targets a game.
I can't wait till Raj drafts him next year.
He's just hoarding tight ends like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Some people
probably. You're going to draft him next year, Raj?
God no. Is it a contract year?
Can you put some respect on his name though, or no?
I think he was
with your option.
They declined his option, so they could. I think they could franchise tag
That's
him.
it. They could franchise him. No, I'm putting some respect on him, but I could see the rug being pulled out of. But if not, I will give him all the flowers he deserves.
Excellent. I will end things off here with a tight end hate. I'm going to go with Jake Ferguson, tight end 14 versus the Chargers. So the once tight end 1 on the season through the first 7 weeks of the year is now tight end 18 over the past 4 weeks. That's definitely not what anyone expected. And although the Chargers have given up an average of 17 points per game to tight ends over the past 3 weeks, I have no faith that Ferguson even will produce double-digit points. He is a flat-out bench for me, and I like Colston Loveland, Theo Johnson, and even Oronde Gadsden ahead of him this week.
Oronde Gadsden, wow.
His production was very tethered to CeeDee Lamb's health.
But he had games with Lamb back, with the trio back, and was still producing, and he was still seeing targets, especially in the red zone. And those have since been taken away. So he's become really touchdown dependent over the past few weeks. And if he's not getting in the end zone, he's just not cracking the top 10 for tight ends. So definitely flat out sit for Jake Ferguson this week. That'll do it for the Week 16 edition semifinals for the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Nacc, that's Raj, and Fab. Good luck on your matchups this week, everyone. We will see you next week. Raj, the music.
It is, ladies and gentlemen. It is. Good luck in the semifinals. Good luck to everybody who's in the semifinals. God bless. God bless.
Jobless.
God bless.
Yes.
Jobless.
Big trust. Big trust.
Big
Big
trust.
trust. Big trust. Who was that again? Mark Ingram? Big trust.
It was the guy on TikTok who was clowning us about Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, but Mark Ingram did that to like in a press conference when they were hating on that season. There were that 2 seasons they played for the Baltimore Ravens, and they were hating on Lamar Jackson. It's like big trust. Anyways, peace out, everyone. Good luck.
Peace out.